wanted to thank you for your time today and be able to do this with me. It's basically a mental health podcast while I'm out traveling about. I feel like there's a lot of things wrong, and mental health is almost not a big deal for everyone. Everyone kind of brushes it aside. So I wanted to bring it to life and just kind of get different perspectives from different people. So I appreciate Reverend Kaz for your time today.
Thank you.
So first off, can you tell us a little bit about your background and like your passions?
Passion? Oh, okay. So I originally came from Japan 20 years ago. Then I had a different background for the job and things. Like I was a high school teacher for a while. Then also bartender for the nighttime for the karaoke bar. And also I run the small company. Then later, around year 2000, I was wondering, I can do something, a different job can help people. Then I kind of switched my job to the ministry in the Buddhist tradition. Yeah, so since then, I think I have a passion to work with the people and to help how the people in struggle in the society or in the everyday life. So I do like a Buddhist consultation, to talk and also conduct the Sunday services.
Can you briefly explain the Four Noble Truths? I believe this could be like a very powerful tool for Westerners because a lot of people, I was definitely in the West, haven't ever heard of it, and I think that's it can be helpful in a mental crisis.
I think before I start the Four Noble Truths, then I can explain the essential teaching in the Buddhism. So the Buddhism is not religion nor faith, because we have a statue, but that's not like an idol worship object. Instead, in the Buddhist tradition, the objective is to becoming a Buddha. It sounds like becoming a god, but that's not, because becoming a Buddha is a true human beings. Then, in order to try to becoming a true human beings, the Buddha explained the four Dharma mark, which means the four essential teachings. The first one is impermanence. The teaching of impermanence, which means to apply everyone. Since we are born, someday we have to die. So that's the true reality. The Buddha first things that he explained. The second things, the things are all connected, which is we call the interdependence, or we call dependent origination. Have you heard interdependence?
Yeah. I was like, I've been vaguely a student and practitioner Buddhism. I feel like I definitely agree, like, because I understand like the Buddha means above the intellect, and so yeah, I was like, but if you could explain more.
Oh, okay. So like when I explain about interdependence, I always give the same kind of a question: do you support war?
Yeah, but I was saying it's like that. It's always a difficult thing. I feel like a lot of wars nowadays it's either for resources or for religion, which it sounds it's almost counterproductive. Like how could you do that in the name of a god when in fact they wouldn't want you to do that in the first place? It's to treat others kindly and equally.
So how the Buddhists see the war is everyone is supported. Although we don't want any conflict. You know why? Because we pay taxes.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So right now we have the war, the conflict in the Ukraine, right? So then no matter how you support or not support, as long as you pay taxes, every dollar of the tax money goes to the buying or producing armors and whatever, right? So that's how Buddhists see. So every situation occur in the world is always a part of my life. That's how the Buddhists see. So that's why in the Buddhist tradition, why we say mindfulness, right? Have you heard mindfulness?
Yeah.
Yeah. So nowadays mindfulness is popular. Then most of the people think mindfulness is like a focus on the 30 minutes for the quiet meditation or something.
Yeah.
But the original idea of mindfulness is that every word and deeds be mindful. That's kind of basis of what the Buddhism talks about mindfulness. So that's reflect on the interdependence, because whatever your action will start affecting all other people. right? Because everything is connected. That's like how we no matter what we have to support.
Yeah.
Things. So that's the second thing. The third thing is when we die, things are back to quiet. While we are living, we have brain, so we think all the stupid things in the everyday life.
Yeah.
But when we die, then I always ask other people, when we die, where we go?
It's a difficult question for. I mean, I know a lot of different faiths have different ideas, but when you shed that ego, so all your nature and nurture that you've accumulated, it's just basically your soul. So what you thought of and your ideas here with your ego might not necessarily collaborate with your soul. It's like then I know in different like Taoism and Buddhism, it's the accumulation of your karma, and if if there's a certain point that you'll be reincarnated to transform that karma, because you stick with it in different lifetimes. If I'm understanding that correctly.
Okay, so you're talking about the spirit and also the reincarnation in karma, right? Mm-hmm. So these are pretty much like a Hindu culture, not the Buddhist teachings.
Okay.
So first start with the spirit. So Buddha did not recognize spirit as kind of a practical issue, which means in the Buddhist tradition, as I said, we are not religion nor faith, which means no belief. So that means that whatever we are told we have to believe something, that's kind of something we don't have to believe. So technically, the Buddhist tradition, we have no soul or spirit idea. Because that came from the creationism.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So then the second thing is the karma. And the karma in Hindu and karma in Buddhism is a totally different meaning.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So in the Buddhist tradition, karma is causation, which means no fate.
Oh, okay.
So like I said, interdependence. Every action we make makes toward to the whatever you can change what you are supposed to thinking. This is a fate. Yeah, every action. So like in any conflict, if no one says anything, we just continue on, right? But because the people start doing, support a peace and things like that, then people start aware, what the worldly people are thinking. That's gradually slow, but we make a progress to how we can to seize those conflict situations.
Okay.
Then talking about reincarnation. That's totally the Hindu culture. Yeah, so originally Buddhism started to stay away from reincarnation. Because originally, Hindu and Buddhist tradition started in India. Then in India, still nowadays, there's a caste system. Then I know that some of the cities in the US, they prohibited to have a caste system culture, right? I think some of the cities, like New York or Seattle, recently they kind of made an official government rule not to apply the caste system here in the U.S. So those kind of things. So then, how the caste system is backed by the reincarnation. Like if you basically how they understand is if you are in a lower social status, then they have to accept as that's your own karma as reincarnation, because probably you did something wrong in the previous life or something like that. So the Buddha about 2,500 years ago, he actually came from the kind of higher level of the class, but he realized everyone, the human being, is supposed to equal. So he tried to stay away from caste system. That's the kind of the beginning of Buddhism.
Okay.
And then later on, Buddhism was once disappeared in India. Have you heard? That's because later in the past there's Islamic countries.
Yeah.
They invaded to the especially for the northern part of India. They kind of destroyed all the temples and killed the monks.
Yeah.
So kind of technically, once the Buddhism disappeared from India, then neighbors countries like used to like Tibet or Nepal. This country kind of reconstructed, like refigured the Indian Buddhism.
Oh.
So that's
okay.
how they
That makes
started.
sense.
Second generation of the Indian Buddhism started.
Yeah.
So at the time already they synchronized with the Hindu and Buddhism and or different kind of local indigenous faiths. So that's kind of how we see nowadays that's Indian Buddhism. That's not really the original one.
Okay,
Yeah.
that makes sense. Because I remember because I've done some research, like I said, about Buddha or what was it, Siddhartha Gautama.
Mm-hmm.
When he achieved enlightenment, he saw that basically the wheel. What's the wheel called? I forgot.
Field of Dharma.
Yeah.
Dharma chakra.
Dharma. Okay, yeah. Because I was like, because I remember it in having, going from all the way from like basically the lower, or like I guess I wouldn't say like lower astral, but like negative dharma to that. And so I thought reincarnation played a role into that, in that it was basically the whole idea was to try to eliminate that so you can get to the basically go on the wheel, like go on the higher aspect of it, because but that does bring it to perspective for me.
So that's why so basically why Buddhism talking about enlightenment is the liberation from karmic condition, which means that from get away from reincarnation. That's a Buddhist original Buddhist teaching. Okay, so then back to the after we die, where we go. You just try to bring back the original question. Okay, so when I ask the people about when we die or when you die, where you go, especially at the funeral service in the Buddhist tradition, I always ask that kind of question. Then other people say, oh well, my grandma is in passing a judgment and gate in heaven and things like that. Then Buddhism say, oh after everyone died, no matter what you believe or not, everyone go to the mortuary. This is not like a stupid response. Buddhism is always talking about reality. So when we die, we go to the mortuary and also the crematory, right? The cremation, right? Then back as urn.
Yeah.
So Buddhism is only talking about something that's practically what we can experience.
Okay.
So we don't have to worry about like a demon or a delusion, something is attacking my life, or like a fate. Those kind of like a mental condition. People worry about those kind of things, like a exodus or something like a ghost. So at least Buddhism or people who are in the Buddhism, people do not necessarily to deal with those kind of things. So the kind of they can at least try to eliminate these weeds.
Okay.
Usually, like a religion talks about like you're back in something, the demon is hanging around. They have some kind of spiritual prayer or something.
Yeah.
But Buddhism, basically say, we don't have nothing, those kind of stuff. Right?
Okay.
Yeah.
So as you live, you die, you become a part of everything else, because you can't create or destroy matter. It always goes somewhere else. So eventually either our ashes, or we go in the ground and we're part of the grass, and we basically are still a part of life.
Yeah. So that's the beginning. I said one of the four truths. So then I explained the first one: impermanence. The things are changing always.
Yeah.
That's why we cannot stick into the one thing, right? The second thing is the interdependence. We are always connecting something. So that's why we always be mindful for what we do and what we say, right? Then third thing is, I said, when we die, everything quiet, return to just quiet silence. Then in Buddhist tradition, we call nirvana means death, not the enlightenment. That's more like a Hindu tradition.
Okay.
Yeah, they also use a term like a moksha, but in the Buddhist tradition, when people die, we call nirvana. Then, do you know what the meaning of nirvana?
I can't think of it right now.
Okay, so like maybe I can give you we have stick incense. That's an LED, so that's not an actual candle. But just imagine just candle here. Okay, stick candle. Then I have a lighter. Then I lit. Then you see the flame, right?
Yeah.
Then when I blow, then flame goes. right? Then at the moment, from the frame to the disappear of the frame, just when I blow, then frame goes sideways, right? Because my air comes out. Then the frame will leave from the wick, right? The moment what you see.
Yeah.
What you will see?
Smoke,
right? So at the moment when I blow, then from the wick, the white smoke, right?
Yeah.
So the change from the frame to the smoke, that's called nirvana.
Oh, okay.
Which means disappear.
Okay.
Disappear the form what you see.
That's a really good analogy.
Yeah. So that's the original meaning of nirvana. So that's why Buddhist tradition we translated nirvana as a death, because the time of the death you no longer can continue your form, right?
Yeah.
Because even you tell your family, say, when I die, don't do anything, but they decomposed, right?
Yeah.
All the flies come in, they start eating it,
Yeah.
fresh and stuff. So we cannot anyway we cannot continue something, right?
Yeah.
But at the time you start turn into quiet, right? No matter you say, keep my money to my grave and whatever.
Yeah.
But once you stop your heartbeat, ding, just quiet.
Doesn't matter. Yeah.
Yeah. So from the B to D, that's a Buddhist main focus, which means a birth to death. So the dash B to D, that's the Buddhist teachings. That's why Buddha said, one of the discourse the Buddha said, before we were born, I don't know. Then after death, that's not the business for the Buddhism. So the teachings of Buddhism is not talking about before life, like a previous life or afterlife. That's a delusion. People can believe, but that's not something, the actual stuff we can discuss or we can deal with it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like we can't measure. We have no idea about
Yeah.
it. So yeah, I guess that is a really important, is just to be able to focus, like you said, mindfulness, like the here and now.
Yeah.
Don't focus on I know there's a lot of different religions that like don't focus on your past because it's already behind you. It doesn't exist anymore.
Yeah.
In the future, I was like, it's not ever set in stone, so don't ever do it. So your current actions is what transforms your future and what so I understand that.
Okay, so then, sorry, one more thing, right?
Yeah.
Because that's the basics.
Yeah.
That's a connected to Four Noble Truths. Because the first one is that most of the time the English translation say life is suffering or life suffer.
Mm-hmm.
Have you heard?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's wrong.
Yeah, I was like, I forgot there was a better translation. I can't remember.
Yeah, that term is called the dukkha in Sanskrit. Then, my background is PhD in Buddhist studies, so I studied these languages in Sanskrit, Tibetan, Pali, and classical Chinese, and things like that. Then, when I look at the original term meaning of dukkha, is how the Buddha translated is things are having their own way of living. Just like Buddhism always says, live as you are, come as you are. Okay. So so technically, so that means that everything is following whatever their own intention, or like principles for the physics or something. Like drop the ball, no matter what, the ball will go into the ground.
Yeah.
Right? So that's a gravity, right? So there's many different principles and things or start making those kind of actions, but we as human beings, we have ego to try to control something, right?
Yeah.
Why there's a conflict? I try to embrace with a peace or something like that, but sometimes or most of the time not work well, right?
Yeah.
So then people have a frustration, right? So the gap between your ideal outcome and actual result is different, right? So right now it's like a Ukraine war, right?
Yeah.
So that gap makes suffer, because that's how much you cannot control.
Yeah.
So the fourth truth, we call fourth truth is things exist as they are, but because human beings try to control things, that's why the people create their own suffering, not that life is suffering.
Okay.
So,
that makes sense.
So that's why Buddha simply said things are uncontrollable.
we might like backtrack a little bit. What are some misconceptions about Buddhism that you often hear about?
Yeah, like I think basically there are the three things. One is the translation matter. Like I already explained, like a spirit, like a soul, and also the life. See life as like negativity, right? Like a life is suffer or things like that. And also the third one is the people take as like a religious faith. That's I think the major misconception.
Yeah, it's like an ideal of like how you should conduct yourself on a regular basis to be, like you said, mindful, to be aware of other people. It's like things you can't control and everything like that. So it makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, so that way you can at least reduce your own stress, right? Why the things not going as what I expected, but the Buddha said, oh, that's normal. Things go exactly what you expected. That's abnormal, in the Buddhist tradition.
Yeah. Can you control it? No. Then you just have to deal with it. It's like you can't stress about it.
That's why every second or every moment to be mindful, to make your own decision or action, to manage, not the control, manage the way how you intended, right? Yeah. So that's basically how the Buddhist tradition try to help the mental condition to help, especially nowadays the social network and always people compare who is more influenced than other people, right? But the Buddhist tradition's response is, so what? Most important existence is yourself. So we always say, do not compare with others, because comparing others there's no end, because when you start comparing your usefulness when you're a teenager, majority of the people is older. So you say, hey, I'm younger, right? But once you start like a 20 or 30 or 40, less percentage you can claim yourself as younger, right? So then maybe, when you go 50 or 60s, in social networks, almost you are the, like an old guy, right? So that's kind of, impossible to keep continuing to compare with others, like smartness, or richness, or your health, those kind of things is that just momently changing, like I said, impermanent, right? So that's why Buddhism always say, just focus your life. That's why I often say MYOB.
MYOB?
Yes. Can you guess?
Make your own.
Oh, close.
What is it?
Mind your own business.
Yeah.
So how much other your friends making, or how much your friends have girlfriend, whatever. So what? Most important is how you appreciate, enjoy your everyday life. That's the key to increase or improve your mental health. Because nowadays a lot of young kids, especially I saw some poll. The high school girls really have a hard time for the mentally, because social networks, everyone's put the good things, and then try to make more get yes, right? So that makes like a more difficult. Then cannot pretty much cannot escape from that situation. But when you turn off your smartphone, there is no such, right? So how you look into your own self that's really important, especially nowadays, because everyone's trying to solicit you to come into please compare, right? But that's the end of the result is get the sickness, or cannot even they're afraid to see their social network, their page, right? Because how much yes or how much no, right? So that makes really nervous in the everyday life. Because physically we have many things we can do, although we have a muscle pains, but the brain cannot afford those kind of brain pain. We have the tiny amount of the capacity to accept stress. So nowadays many people is always every day overflowing. Right. That's why they just only like to see what they want to see, or they only listen what they like to listen. So that's why, those kind of things in the society-wise, they start making divisions, Oh, I don't want to see, or I don't want to hear, anything what I don't like, right?
Yeah.
Because, that's not how they originally started, because their capacity is overflow situation. That's why they no longer can accept someone who is talking about something different from you. But the Buddhist tradition always said, we always encourage, listen to whatever people are saying, that you digest, but you always keep MYOB.
Yeah.
Yeah. So whatever people say, maybe good for you or bad for you, but just listen it. But you make your own decision.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's how Buddhists is try always be healthy mentally. Yeah.
Yeah. I feel like that's really important, because I know from psychological standpoint that they say that our brains stop developing around 27 to 30, and then our ideas start to solidify, and then that's all you want to hear. Like, you don't want to have like any other ideas or concepts, and you're just like, no. I was like, I like my little world and stuff like this, and I was like, I don't want, because it can cause me stress or pain or depression or anything like that. I was like, anything outside of it could mess up my whole worldview. But I feel that for a lot of people, it'd be more beneficial, like like me and you, like doing research outside of like what conventionally, like what people usually do. Just learn more. I was like, when you stop learning, that's when I feel like you truly die. I was like, you always want to experience and learn more.
Yeah. So sometimes people ask me, please describe what the Buddhist, or just by one word, I say lifelong learner, lifelong student. So we can learn not only from the book or maybe over internet, but we also learn from even the backyard gardening. Every year season is different, the temperature is different. Those kind of things. What every day we learn, right? So that's how Buddhists always say. Always open your ears, eyes to see and what the situation. That's because they're always connecting each other. But you don't have to take like more like a emotional way. Just observe practical manner. That's why I always say like practical things, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that makes sense. Also, we've kind of gone through this a little bit before too. What are other aspects of Buddhism do you think can benefit an individual suffering from mental health issues?
I think depend on what kind of suffering or difficulties or they have, right? So there's no one single response. That's why Buddhism has like a 84,000 kind way of path.
Yeah.
That's a lot, right?
Yeah.
So technically, if there's 100 people, 100 different paths. So like not like a manual or like a Bible, like a text. We don't utilize Buddhism at that kind of way. Instead, how you want to manage, what is your own direction? That's always I ask when I do the consultation in the Buddhist tradition. So I'm not like dictating like, oh, you should do this, or you should do this practice and things like that. That never works.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's maybe momently away their problems. Like if you have a high temper like emotions, then just do a 10 minutes meditation quiet. Maybe that will relieve for a while, but as long as they continue the issue itself, they will never solve, right? That's why I always listen to it. Like 5, 10, 20 hour, a couple hours. Depend how much they are having a situation. Then from there, I just start asking, how about this and that? Did you try this and that? So all the things I just try to listen. So sometimes I do like a email correspondence. Sometimes I write like a 2-hour long email because I want to detailedly know about the person. I just don't want like a patient. Oh, okay, just take this medicine. That never works, especially for the mental situation, right? So last almost like 20 years, I've been working with those mental difficulty that people encounter. Then they go first like a psychiatrist or counselor. Then they end up to coming to the Buddhist temple. I've been go there a psychiatrist and got the medication for blah blah, but the last like 10 years I've been still have a trauma. So I finally look at the Yale page or website.
Yeah.
Then I saw some wisdom from the Buddhist tradition. Then they kind of hit in the temple. Then we start opening up discussion, like this kind of situation. They say, oh, how about you? And how you grew up, and what kind of background you have. All the things I just listen to it, like information. Then I just start digesting how, kind of I feel like I just walk the path how they walked in the past.
Okay.
Childhood, middle school, high school, and the adults, how they, dealt with those kind of trauma and feel, because many times like domestic violence type of things, then I just chopped up the detail and see how I can may help, not change, help the way how they are experiencing for decades. Then sometimes work, sometimes not work, but that's depend on situation.
One of the biggest things is like there's no magical pill that like solves people's issues.
Mm-hmm.
It's just like it almost like decreases like your mood or
Mm-hmm.
something like that, rather than actually getting to the core of the issue.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's one of the reasons, like I said, is why I'm trying to do this podcast while I'm traveling.
Mm-hmm.
It's just like giving other people's different ideas,
Mm-hmm.
different things for them to think about and maybe even meditate on.
Mm-hmm.
And speaking of meditation, as a practitioner of Buddhism, what length of time would you say you meditate each day? And do you think this is optimal, or do you think people in the West can benefit from a shorter amount of time?
I think, nowadays we see more like a commercialized meditation, just like a meditation CD for 30 minutes, just listen, you see.
The songs and stuff like that.
Like I hear the certain level of the, like a tone, like
a frequency,
right? So those kind of things. But Buddhism is more like a simple, no devices, just, like a meditation for, like mindfulness. It's supposed to, that's every day and every moment, every action is a meditation. Because every action I do, that's a meditation. Because meditation, the term, there's several term translation is a meditation. The one is samadhi.
Yeah.
Have you heard samadhi?
Mm-hmm.
Samadhi is dive into the situation, what you're doing. Like, I sometimes ask this kind of question. When people go like a AMC for the movie, right? Okay. Then my question is, how was the taste of popcorn?
Yeah.
Then if they say, "Oh, the taste of the popcorn was great," that means the movie was no good, right? Because they're
focusing
right?
on that. Yeah.
Then if they say, "Yeah, I don't remember," then it sounds like the movie was good because they are concentrating. Because our brain, although we have a right and left, but we cannot separately function. Right. So when we are eating, if we start watching like TVs, then we're not really tasting, right?
Mm-hmm.
That's why like maybe you saw like watch like how the Zen monks at the temple they were eating food is no talk, right?
Yeah.
Once they start like when they put the hand together and the itadakimasu in a Japanese Zen monks say, then they start eating just quiet, like it just only sound like they're. Right? That's how they do, because they try to concentrate what they do. That's their own practice. So if you do like a 10, 20, like a timely like meditation for 30 minutes, then after that you start going crazy for the everyday schedule, then you are not really doing a meditation. Mm-hmm. Just like you are taking a pill. Like someone who has a diabetes, or they say, "Oh, I took a pill so I can eat whatever I want."
Yeah,
that's a I see what the people is doing. So not really they are getting the benefit from the meditation. Yeah. So like if they take a medication pill, they're supposed to not try to manage what the action for the day.
Yeah.
Right?
You do a meditation for 30 minutes and then you go back out to being like frustrated and stressed and everything like that. You're like, but I did my meditation today, so I'm fine. No.
Then some people increase the hour, right?
Yeah.
30 to hour, So that's not really how the Buddhism started. Like, when you look at the Indian people or India or Nepal, they don't do meditation that way. Because every emotion they intended to try to do slowly than what you actually do in everyday action. Like, not to rush.
Yeah.
Yeah. So like, some of the country in Bhutan, nearby the Tibet, is known as a Buddhist country, the kingdom. So they always sleep the way how they go, the devout Buddhists. Then the reason why is that they try to stay away to step on the insect, try to not to kill.
Oh yeah.
So they always sleep the way how they go. So that's kind of mindfulness, right? But now a lot of people say I'm a really the peaceful person. I don't kill anyone. Then I always say, look at your bumper in the front, all the boxes like ding. Right? Yeah. So we like these people is what they like to see, right? That's exactly what they like to see and what they do, right? But as Buddhist teachings say, everything connected. You have to see the action what we do. But we are not really paying attention, right? We only pay attention. We are doing these kind of great things, right? But not the little things what we are left out.
Yeah, we got the tunnel vision. I was like, it's and one of the things I enjoy about meditation is things that are particularly like frustrating or particular like traumatizing things in your past, about just staying in the meditation and really diving deep into that and be like, why haven't I gone past this? Why does this come up so much in my daily life? How can I get through this? And really trying to almost like it's almost like a therapy practice, but just like by yourself. I feel like that a lot more people nowadays would really benefit from that, and just being like, what was like, oh, why did I yell at that store clerk? I was like, what? There was no reason, but then you remember your day and you started thinking about why you did it, and your I don't know, your boss said that you couldn't get a promotion that day or whatever, and just being like, bringing that mindfulness into that situation so you can learn from it in the future.
Yeah. So like maybe for the new people entering a Buddhism or meditation, is they are all most of the time they are using for the post-action observation, right? Why at the time I was this and that, right? Then they kind of observe during the meditation, right? Then Buddhism kind of may have suggestion as causation, why that was happened. Then probably you try to control too much, or you did not understand that that will disappear anyway, But sometimes at the momently we kind of become hot temper. They say they start arguing. But later on, say, wow, that was not necessary, So once people start aware of that kind of action or observation, then that meditation will really help. Instead, just do every day 15 or 30 minutes. That would not really help, because I see a lot of people, even they do the meditation, and then later on they start complaining about meditation. Oh, it won't help, right? But I say, well, that's not like a medication, So like a chemical stuff. So not always apply, and also how they apply is also different result they will see, right?
Yeah.
So first they can start with like a simple meditation to observe what was happening in their own actions, as to observe the post observation, right? But then later on, once they start like a 24/7 for the mindful living, then they can prevent those kind of things, less situation you encounter.
Be like you said, like bringing that mindfulness to everyday life instead of being tunnel vision and stuff like that. Be like, you might feel frustrated, but you'd be like, oh, it's like I remember I was like, I don't want to put that kind of thing on other people, or I don't want to react that way. It's because you're more mindful of the situation instead of your emotions controlling you, you're controlling your emotions, above the intellect, So
we utilize that idea is many things. Like, you should utilize SNS, not utilized by the SNS. You can watch media, but don't control by the media. So even don't control by mom. Those kind of things. Always you as you are. Always put yourself in the first. How you can add more valuation for how you like to live, to moving forward till the day when we see the D, right? Yeah. So that's kind of a simple Buddhist way of living. Just enjoy their own way of living, as with MYOB. That's kind of always help, and also less frequency you encounter like a mental difficulties or stress you have. Yeah, sure, because once there are the two people, there's always stress, right? Even just one single person in the island, no one living, is also that's really stressful because you have to do everything, right? So no matter what the situation, we encounter any certain amount of stress, but that's more manageable or overwhelming. That's totally different, right? Once you start overwhelming to day 1, day 2, day 3, after 10, the 100th day, totally different. Right? Yeah. That's why from the beginning, always try to manage the way how. That's why Buddhism say, there's no fate. Always you can change.
Yeah.
The causation is always, you can drop the water, then start making green, right? If you don't start, just all desert, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's a mentality how we motivate ourselves in the Buddhist tradition.
Yeah. It's like, carpe diem, like you want to enjoy and be mindful in everyday life because, if anything, I was like, if you're more focused on individual things or things that are happening in your head, you're missing out on so much else going on around you. Like, you just, this person that was performing on the corner, or, the conversation you could have had with somebody, or you're just missing out on so much more in life. So if anything, you're almost like shortening your lifespan at that point. So there's many forms of meditation to focus on many different aspects. For someone who's new to meditation, what should they focus on when they first start?
Well, I think depend on what they're looking for, because most of the time in the U.S. culture, from the beginning of the child, we are always trained or treated as always try to be busy, right? So parents, what they feel honor is, my kids is always busy, right? But the busy means you really don't have a time to think yourself, right? That's why try to get out from busy schedule to separate out yourself. Originally, meditation is always in the everyday life, but because of this current situation or condition of the U.S. society, is first I try to pause. I don't know if you remember or not, but when Windows nowadays, like Windows 10 or 11, right? But back then, Windows 2000, have you heard? Windows 98?
Yeah, Windows Vista, like back in the day.
Yeah. So that time, the computer always had like a timer when the computer said busy. Yeah, so back then, computer has the LED lights for busy.
Yeah.
Right? Busy. So that means when the computer is busy, no matter what we input or click the mouse, won't respond, right? So basically the human being is the same thing. Like I said, so nowadays computer has like a multi-core, which means while they play piano, while listen to music, right, doing a word processing and Excel, right? So many things they can do, not simulationally. They can do the 4, 5, 6 different tasks at the same time. But the human beings, we cannot do that.
Yeah.
Always think that. So simulationally, for us as a brain, simulationally, we are switching back and forth, right? That's why the Department of the Transportation said, don't text while you drive.
Yeah.
Right? Because when, even like a millisecond, we are seeing like screen. So at the time, we don't see a windshield. That's why that may cause for the car accident, right?
Yeah.
So that's why Buddhist tradition, we always say, try to separate out for the different tasks, especially when we do the meditation, we use meditation for like analysis or observation. What is a priority? What is not less frequently prioritized in the everyday life? Because when, like I said in the beginning, the parents are honored to feel like, my kids is busy. So we try to make our own time, instead of fitting all the schedule to make feel like, oh, mom, I'm still busy, even turning 20 or 30. So that's kind of, we try to change the way, once people becoming adults, that they have a right to control their own schedules. No more mom and dad.
Yeah.
So then how you want to live your own life. That's I think the beginning to how you to start using meditation. Oh, now no more mom and dad. Okay, so now I have to focus on my own life. So at the time you have a space for time to just quiet, silence.
Yeah.
Because a lot of people I encounter for the new visitor for the meditation class, the people say, even I try to quiet, always my brain's talking, right? So that's kind of how we try to calm down, to tell our brain, quiet, just to be feel like before you are sleeping, That's kind of how I just suggest for the new people who start joining meditation. But depend on their background is different, so I cannot apply same methodology to everyone. But most of the time, I tell that's how they can start.
Yeah, and for people that think that like they're really good multitaskers, I can tell personally, because my background, like I have a degree in psychology, that there was an experiment that they did where the whole point of the video was there was people in specific jersey colors, and then you're supposed to count on how many times a jersey of specific color was past the ball. And they're all moving, everything like that, a whole bunch of different jersey colors. And a lot of people, they're taking so much in that they don't even realize that a guy dressed in a gorilla suit comes in the frame, beats his chest, and walks away. Like it's literally like 70% of people don't realize that it's like, if you're not explained it, it's super obvious, but when you're trying to do so many things, it's hard to focus on things like that. And for meditation each day, I was like, you could do it by, while you're doing yoga, while you're washing dishes, while you're gardening. You can do it more than people want to realize. It's not just sitting in one place and being mindful of having your eyes closed. You can do it on any time of day. I think it's one of the biggest misconceptions. There's that's meditation, and it's kind of like a inside joke with some of my friends that's like, it's like they talk about how stressed out they get, or how busy, or and things like that. And I was like, have you tried meditation though? I was like, it helps to be able to clear that voice out, because I think one of the hardest things, and one of the things that's mentally tough for a lot of people, is that little voice in your head could sometimes be your worst enemy. For people that are interested in learning more and supporting you, where would they go about finding that?
Yeah, so our temple is run by the people. Then there's no a big donor to making one big chunk of the fund to run the temple. So each membership is supporting the portion of the temple. That's why we can run. So our temple started in 1902. So one of the oldest facility in Fresno, because even Fresno State University was built after 10 years after our temple is built. So kind of a pretty old tradition. Wow. How we continue. So since that time, first founding people was a Japanese immigrant, came to the U.S. 1890s. Then since then, a majority of the temple member is the Japanese Americans. So they are devotedly support and help the temple to run the temple. So if people like to help a temple, they can join a member, or they can also help the ministerial side. So we have a youth minister's assistant, and also the adult ministerial assistant. So both sides will come into the home, inside and do the practice and chantings, or leading a meditation sessions. So there's a many way people can help, not just only participating the Buddhist temple activities.
Okay. And also I'm going to leave links in the descriptions for the website. So if people wanted to support you that way, they can also do that too.
Yeah.